Natalia Bonner. Welcome to Let's Stitch a Year of Stars Piecing Edition. This is block number 10, the 9-patch star. Now, if you haven't seen these piecing videos before, if you're just new to this piece along version of the Year of Stars, let me tell you just a little bit about it. So for a whole entire year, all of 2021, I am sharing how to piece and quilt this awesome quilt right here behind me, the Let's Stitch a Year of Stars quilt. So if you're a quilter and want to just quilt along, you can piece your blocks, or we do have this panel that's available for purchase through honestfabrics.com. Now, if you want to piece your own blocks, that's what I'm here for today, to piece my blocks. So today I'll show you how to piece it, and then on the first of the month, I'll be back and show you exactly how I machine quilt my blocks. So make sure you subscribe to my channel. Also, check out our Facebook page, Let's Stitch a Year of Stars. It's such a fun group where everybody shares their progress and updates, and it's just really inspiring. I love these groups. We actually call them our communities because they're such amazing groups of quilters sharing and inspiring. Anyways, all that good stuff, let's get to the piecing. So you can find all of the step-by-step cutting directions, fabric requirements, all the nitty-gritty stuff over in the workbook that's a companion to this sew along. So the workbook is called Let's Stitch a Year of Stars, and you can find that on our website, pieceandquilt.com. So for this version of the block, I am going to be using 3 fat quarters. So I'm using, the original version is done using a maroon, a blue, and a light pink. I instead am using gray for my background. I am using pink and also green. So completely different colors, and it's going to be awesome. So let's get stitching. I'm sewing here today on my fun little featherweight machine, as you can see. Now, I always have a lot of questions about this fun machine, so I have all the details about it in the description below. Now, you're going to want to use some thread. I'm using So Fine thread to do all of my piecing here. And I have gone through and done my markings already on these 4 7/8 inch squares. Marked a diagonal line from corner to corner using the blue Mark Be Gone marker. And now I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch on each side of that line. Now I'm going to be using a scant 1/4 inch here, which means a little bit smaller than a true 1/4 inch. The reason I do that, after I piece my blocks or after I sew, cut them apart and press, I'll want a 4.5 inch half square triangle unit. So by using a scant 1/4 inch, I can square up my block a little bit if I need to. So let's get piecing. So here I've placed one of my pink squares and my gray background square together, right sides together, and now I'm sewing along the side. I am going to chain piece these blocks. And after I cut my fabrics, I realized that this piece had a little bit of the selvage in there. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to use it. I know that somebody's going to want to throw a book at me right now because I am using a tiny bit of my selvage. I'm okay with it though. So I am by no means a perfect piecer, and I'm never going to be one. But you know what? For me, piecing is a hobby. And if I can just inspire you to get out your machine, to sew, to have a little bit of fun, then I'm happy with that. I'm happy just having fun sewing. After we've sewn on one side of that marked line, then now we're going to go back through and sew on the opposite side. So we should have here, I'm using 2 pink and 2 green blocks. Once we're all done making this block, it should finish, or it better finish, at 12 inches square, along with all of these Year of Stars blocks. Now that we have those clipped apart, now we're going to trim them apart on that center marked line. Now we'll press towards the dark. I like to use a little bit of flatter, spritz it on, set my seams, and then press, especially with a block like this where you may be working with a little bit of bias. Setting those seams with a little bit of flatter will help you not distort your blocks. Now that I have all of those blocks pressed, I should have 4 pink, and here I have pink and gray squares, and I should have 4 of my green and gray squares. Now you can square those up to 4.5 inches. Once you have those squared up, we're ready to start putting this block together. We are going to start out making 2 top and bottom rows. Now, make sure you lay these out so that you know that you are laying them out in the correct order, because you know me, I'm probably going to lay them out in the correct order and still sew them together wrong. I want for my green to actually be my star, so lay those out. The top row is going to have 3 of the half square triangle blocks, and the bottom row will actually be the same. But I'm just going to sew one of those at a time. Again, using my 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, if you have pressed towards the dark, not the background, to your darker color, when you start putting these blocks together, those seams should nest together just precisely. And just so I don't mess up, I'm actually not going to chain piece this one, because this is one I can totally see myself sewing the wrong units together. So once I get both of those units, the top and bottom units pieced, I will press those going out. All right, let's press. Now that I have those 2 outside units all pressed, let's piece the center one, and then we'll sew those 3 rows together. Now, definitely refer to the illustration here so that you make sure that you're sewing those the correct way. as you can see here, I have a little bit of painter's tape on my featherweight. I like to put that there to help me keep a nice 1/4 inch. I actually add a few layers to create a little bit of a ridge for myself. Yes, I know there's lots of products out there that I could use instead, but for some reason I just keep going back to the painter's tape. And I actually do take it off in between quilts just to make sure it doesn't ever damage this machine because I love it. It's my baby. Now that I have that center row sewn, we are going to press the center towards the center block. So set those seams, use a little bit of flatter, and then press towards the center. By pressing this one towards the center, then those two outside blocks or outside rows, when I add them, and I put the whole block together, everything should nest together pretty nicely. So now I have my 3 rows. I'll lay those out to make sure I'm going to sew them on the right sides. And it should create a star with a secondary pattern. And if you make multiples of this block instead of just one like we're doing here today, it'll actually create a really cool secondary pattern. Now, on the 1st of next month, I will be back sharing with you step by step how I machine quilt this block. We'll also have a bonus version available over on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Natalia Bonner, sharing with you a second version of how I machine quilt this block. So lots of inspiration with each of these Year of Stars blocks. Now you can see here, I do not use pins. So as I go, I just adjust, make sure things fit together nicely, and definitely try to make my seams nest together. Personally, I'm just not that big of a perfectionist to pin, but there's definitely nothing wrong with pinning. All right, let's give it one final press. When you press this final seam, you really, the way the quilt's put together, they're sashing, you don't need to worry about the way those outside or these final rows are pressed. So I am just going to press those out. And there you have it. I obviously need to pick a few threads off, but I love how this awesome star turned out. Like I said, make sure to come back on the 1st of the month and I'll show you exactly how I machine quilt this block. Then I'll be back next month with another fun block. Have a great day, everybody.